Hi everyone, it's good to be here, and thanks David and his team for the great achievement of getting everyone here today. It's important for our emerging industry. I'm the CEO of Minesto, been for a couple of years, and before that I was the chairman of the company. So I took on this role when we put the company on Nasdaq First North, the small stock exchange in Stockholm. So I also represent 5,000 Swedish shareholders that have invested basically in our project here in Wales, which is the main thing we're doing. I'm going to try to talk a little bit about inbound investments and how we work and how we think in order to achieve that. It's quite a challenging context with an emerging industry, immature technologies, uncertainty on policies and pricing. So it really takes some challenges, and I'm just going to discuss this a little bit with you. But before I do that, it is really good to see so many political voices raised here today, last week in Brussels on the Energy Summit, that there is a willingness to keep investing in ocean renewable energy. I think that counteracts some of the less productive statements on that we should go subsidy-free in renewables, or that we're done now with what we have with the two mature solar and wave. I think the message from the Commission here today and what you hear in this, that we really need new base load renewables, and that is what we bring to the table. The time phase shift between wind and wave and tidal as a base load with cheaper and cheaper energy storage will be the factor that will take Europe and the world from low single-digit percentage of renewables into 100% renewable energy systems. And we're not just talking about electricity, we're talking about energy. And this is not something that we just choose to do. This is something that we have to do. So in that context, with a massive increase of energy production and a massive shift towards renewables, the long-term business case for ocean renewables is extremely strong. And I think some political spheres have understood that, and the spheres that will drive that the hardest will be the winners in this race. And now then back to how do we in this context work with the real resource attraction, getting the real private equity into the sector. Well, for us, what we do, the first thing that we really want to establish, and we see capital globally. We cannot just sort of stand in the town square in Holyhead and think that we can attract 100 million euros into a project. That's not the way it works. So for us to talk about our competitiveness and the technology on a global scale, that's one of the components to secure the inbound investments to our first array that will go from a demonstration project that we have together with WEFO now, that is going really great, and that will take into a commercial demonstration array, and then further into commercial scale. So we already have secured the resource with the lease from Crown Estates. So it's really from demo to array in the same context. And this is what makes it possible for us to talk about investments and stepwise investments going forward in this. But that interest of investing would not be there if we didn't talk about a substantial contribution to the global energy mix. So we've spent quite some investments into really understanding how large is the potential of the technology, the deep green technology that we sit on. And I know that others and associations that represent us are doing the same thing. This number crunching is extremely relevant, because if we are relevant in the global energy mix, we will help solving the transition to 100% renewable energy systems. The numbers that we pull together are based on economic distances to shore, identified resources, flow rates, and water depths, and based on the current systems we have. So this potential will more than quadruple when we talk about larger systems, larger distances to shore. But already at this stage, the markets that we can analyze, we're talking about a technology, a system that will substitute all nuclear power generation globally forever. So even if it's immature and with a small startup and you start here being bold with your numbers, those are the facts. This is what we're going after. So this is one dimension for us to talk about the potential and the relevance in the global energy mix to attract investments for the project here in Wales. The second dimension that is always on the table when we talk about this is the cost of energy. To some extent, we take a little different approach to this than others. We've really worked hard already since we were founded 10 years ago in simulating the evolution of the cost structure of what we do. And the most important, the driving component in this equation is not related to cost and cost reduction of hardware or operations. It's system performance. How much electricity do we crank out? So when I show you a curve that looks really promising, this is based on a very low level of performance improvement. So I already know now, this is from September last year, that we have in our simulations and in our work already got double-digit percentage increase in performance. We get a better exchange of energy out of the systems, and that will drive costs down more aggressively as we move on. This is the first question that we're asked from investors. But the question is not on the technology level. The question will always be on the project level. So in order to attract inbound investments, what we do is that we have to simulate our Holyhead Deep Limited case in North Wales to get every factor into it, with port access, with what support can we get in collaboration with Morlays and WEFO on infrastructure with grids. How do we solve the scale-up of this so we don't burden the case with CapEx too early on? That's what it really is about. So I think when we talk about cost of energy and £57.5 for a certain figure here and there, what investor wants to see is your business case, and they want it to be presented in an attractive way. And that's an area where we work a lot and have a rather strong team, I would say, in this sector. And I think we all need to do that. So those are the two main things here. And what's interesting here is with this curve is that the Holyhead Deep case will be enough to take us into relevant levels for commercial rollout with very limited support. But of course, in order to trigger those investments and get the numbers together, the revenue support side of it is needed for the first phases. And this is not about begging. It's not about something unique. We've heard it from so many sources today that if we collectively as society invest in those new technologies, we get the money back. But it's going to be very difficult to get private investors to fund that triangle on the left bottom side here. We need to take on that burden in a different way. Okay. What else, apart from the global market and that you needs to be cost relevant, is it that you must show that you're actually doing it? Those are pictures from a few months back. It's our assembly facility together with Holyhead Boatyard. 12-meter wing, struts, it's upside down. This is what the investors want to see, and then they want to see it in the water. It's huge investments for first full-scale devices, but this is the only way to really secure the funding for next phases, of course. Together with this, your ability to operate, install, and run your facilities will also have to be demonstrated from the inbound investor perspective. And I think that the context here in Wales is really, really good for that. The suppliers and the people we've been able to recruit now working and operating out of Holyhead in Wales is an absolute world-class team. And this is also a dimension where Minesto is not running a project in North Wales. Even if we seek project funding for the site in itself, the Holyhead Deep Limited site, we also have our operations development team working out of Holyhead with 20 people today That's innovation. We're filing patents out of Holyhead to strengthen installation operations capability and also to collaborate with the R&D guys in Gothenburg, Sweden. So it's not just something that will go away. That team is such an asset for us that we will keep going with that context. And the first full-scale site just next door to where we have the team is a perfect match, including the port, the Stena port. So I think that's about the story I wanted to share with you. Final slide on it, that yes, from demonstration to rollout, it's going to take investments, huge private investments, but it's also going to take collaboration with society in different ways. And I think the setup in Wales is really good, and this was one piece of the puzzle missing, but then we'll have to reach out to Westminster to fix that. And then we're going to bring £100 million of inbound investments in to Anglesey for the 3-4 years ahead. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.